Have you ever realized that sometimes the person who leaves doesn't expect you to rise, but to collapse silently in their absence? That's the unspoken game. They walk away thinking you'll wait, break, and stay trapped in the past while they move freely ahead. They don't fear losing you. They count on you losing yourself. But here's the twist. When you stop chasing closure, stop replaying the story, and start building forward without needing them to watch, that's when something flips. Not in your favor. In your spirit, you become something they didn't prepare for, a man they no longer have emotional power over. It's not about pretending to be okay, it's about choosing growth when pain tries to freeze you in place. It's about showing not her, but yourself, that your worth isn't tied to who leaves, but to who you become afterward. So this video isn't about revenge, it's about evolution. The moment you stop looking back is when you take your life off. Pause. If you're ready to step forward without apology, hit like, subscribe, and comment below, "I moved on for me, not for her." Let's begin. Number 1. The fire that burns away the old you. Right now the pain feels like everything. It sits in your chest, like a weight that won't move. You replay the moments, what she said, what you didn't say, how it all slipped through your hands, and in that storm of memory and regret, there's a temptation: numb it, drink it away, scroll past it, distract yourself until it quiets down. But the Stoic man doesn't run from the flame. He enters it. Because pain is not your punishment, it's your beginning. It signals that something within you is ready to be broken down and rebuilt. Epictetus taught, suffering arises from trying to control what is uncontrollable, or from neglecting what is within our power. So you stop trying to change her decision, you stop bargaining with memories, and you start facing the only battlefield that matters: yourself. Imagine it like a forge. The fire that threatens to destroy you is the very thing that can purify you, but only if you stay in it long enough to burn away the lies that you weren't enough, that you need her to heal, that love should always feel safe. The man who emerges from this pain isn't the one who hides, it's the one who transforms. So what does that look like in practice? It means waking up and not reaching for her profile. It means attending the gym, even when your body aches with loneliness. It means journaling through the nights when your thoughts scream louder than your silence. It means sitting in that ache and letting it clarify, not crush you. Psychologically, this shift is alchemy. When you stop resisting pain and start respecting it, you disarm its power over you. You turn the question from "why did this happen to me?" into "what part of me needed to break?" And suddenly, the heartbreak is no longer the ending. It's the invitation to rebirth. She may never see this version of you, but that's not the point. You're not healing to win her back. You're healing never again to hand someone the power to destroy you. If you've ever stood inside the fire of heartbreak to forge a stronger self, write this below. My pain didn't break me. It built the man I was meant to become. Number 2, the power of not giving her what she expects. She might be waiting for the familiar script to play out right now. She's seen it before. A man falls apart after she leaves. He begs, apologizes, stalks her stories, asks mutual friends how she's doing. Every reaction is a silent confirmation of her power. But this time, something's different. You're not playing the role. She expected chaos, and you gave her calm. She expected a breakdown, and you gave her stillness. She expected to be chased, and instead, you vanished into focus. That's when the shift begins. Because now she's not looking at you, she's looking inward. Why didn't he react? Was I not important enough? Did I underestimate him? You just flipped the emotional dynamic. In Stoic terms, you exercised the highest form of self-control. Apatheia, the mastery over emotional reactivity. Seneca wrote, "He who is brave is free." And you've chosen the kind of freedom that can't be taken because it's rooted in your choice not to respond, explain, or give her what she expects. This isn't about games, it's about dignity. When you stop reacting, you stop feeding her narrative. You don't show her your pain, you show her your progress. You become a mystery she can't resolve, a quiet absence that unsettles her more than any outburst ever could. So what does this look like? Practically, you delete the drafted message. You don't post that story to make her jealous. You invest your energy where it multiplies your body discipline and purpose. And her perception of you starts to shift each day without you breaking, not because you're trying to prove anything, but because you're too focused to notice. Psychologically, this creates emotional dissonance. She anticipated control. Now she feels confusion. She expected validation, but now she feels a void. And in that void, she begins to feel your worth, not through your words, but your absence. You haven't said a thing, but your silence is screaming. You don't get to be the center of a life you walked out of. That's when regret creeps in. Not because you tried to win her back, but because you didn't need to. You became something much more powerful, untouchable. If you've ever disrupted someone's control by choosing your own, speak it now. She expected weakness. I gave her silence. And that silence became my power. Number 3, the disappearance that reclaimed your throne. A particular kind of silence unnerves people, not because it's empty, but because it feels like power. That's the silence you created when you disappeared. No reaction message or lingering signal of your presence. You just stopped existing in her world. And suddenly, she noticed everything. She noticed your name was not showing up in the viewers. Your likes are missing, the echoing absence of the man who used to be always available. At first, it may have felt like freedom to her, but absence has a strange way of revealing the truth. You were never desperate, you were devoted. Now devotion has been replaced by discipline. This is the essence of the Stoic strategy. Detachment, not as revenge, but as recalibration. Marcus Aurelius taught, withdraw into yourself. The mind that is rational and self-reliant is invincible. And that's exactly what you did. You withdrew, not to punish her, but to protect your peace. Your attention is no longer a free offering, it's sacred real estate. Disappearing isn't about ghosting, it's about reclaiming emotional sovereignty. You no longer orbit her world, you rebuild your own. No half presence, no breadcrumbs, no secret hope, just full removal. So how do you apply this in practice? You stop checking her page. You don't respond to indirect signals. You leave group chats. You unfollow if needed, not to be dramatic, but to create clarity. And most importantly, you fill that space not with new distractions, but with deliberate construction, mind-body mission. You shift from being a man who watches to a man who builds. Psychologically, your disappearance creates a vacuum. The brain hates open loops, and your silence becomes the unresolved story she must finish alone. The moment she looks and sees nothing, that's when your image starts to haunt, not as a man who begged to be remembered, but as the one who vanished without a trace. And in that vanishing, you flipped the balance. You used to orbit her energy. Now she feels herself orbiting yours. Not because you were manipulated, but because you finally walked away with such clarity that it left no doubt you don't stay where you aren't seen. If you've ever vanished, not out of spite, but out of self-respect, say this now: I didn't disappear to punish, I disappeared to protect my peace. Number 4, the unshakable. Calm that took away her power. She remembers when your emotions danced to her rhythm, when one text could ruin your day and one word of approval could lift it. You were reactive, emotional, and exposed, easy to read, easier to rattle. But something changed. Now you're calm. Not the kind of calm that suppresses anger, but the kind born from mastery. You feel everything: the loss, the echoes of her absence, the temptation to speak, but you don't act on it. You don't plead, you don't retaliate. You sit with the storm and choose stillness. That choice changes everything. In a world of men who explode or collapse under emotional pressure, you've chosen the third way: discipline. Stoicism doesn't deny emotion, it refines it. As Seneca said, "He who is brave is free." And freedom in this case is emotional independence. You no longer need her validation to feel grounded. You no longer fear her silence. You let her actions exist without making them your responsibility. That's when her ability to control you quietly dies. You've stopped reacting, and in doing so, you've become unreadable. Not because you're hiding, but because you've stepped beyond the script. So what does this look like in action? It means smiling when she expects a breakdown. It means saying less when she provokes more. It means holding your center in conversations where you once spiraled, not to win, not to punish. But because your emotional state is no longer hers to access, psychologically, this rewires the dynamic. Before, she could press buttons. Now there are no buttons. Your silence becomes a signal. Your lack of reaction becomes the message. You're no longer the predictable variable in her emotional equation, and that unpredictability makes her question the certainty she once had over you. It's not about pretending not to care. It's about proving that you choose self-respect over emotional performance even when you care. And that's power. The man who can feel and not flinch is the one she can't shake. You no longer give her the satisfaction of seeing you crumble. And in that stillness, you become something she didn't expect: untouchable. If you've ever chosen stillness when you could have lashed out, speak it now. I felt everything, but I gave her nothing, and that's when I won. Number 5, the moment you stopped wasting power on what you can't control. You used to repeat every word, every look, every what if. You'd try to decode her silence, explain her decision, rewrite the past in your head, hoping it would change how you feel. But the truth hit hard. You were bleeding energy into things that never belonged to you. That's where everything began to shift. The Stoics taught that freedom is not in having control, but in knowing what you can control. Epictetus said it best: some things are up to us and some are not. Her actions, not up to you. Her regrets, her decisions, her emotions, not up to you, but your next step, always yours. You've been living under emotional tyranny, trying to control what she thinks, how she feels, when she might come back. But that's not power. That's dependency, dressed up in hope. So you flipped the direction, you stopped investing in the past, and started building the future. Not the future with her, but the future within you. And in that decision, you reclaimed the one thing she can never take again: your focus. What does this look like in action? You wake up, and train, not for distraction, but for transformation. You eat well, sleep deep, and learn fast. You rebuild your life brick by brick, knowing she might never see it, and no longer needing her to. Because this time, you're not growing to prove something. You're growing because it's the only way forward. Psychologically, this shift changes the game. When your energy no longer leaks into what you can't influence, it compounds into what you can. And as your results speak louder than your wounds, she becomes what she was always meant to be: background noise. Now she doesn't dominate your thoughts. You dominate your path. She left. That's her choice. You rebuild. That's yours. And in that clarity, her power fades, not because she's irrelevant, but because your mission is now too loud to hear her voice. If you've ever stopped looking back and started building what's next, speak it now. I stopped chasing closure and started creating control. Number 6. When silence became the loudest message she couldn't ignore. There was a time when your words filled the silence. You explained, justified, checked in, tried to keep the peace. But now, all she hears is nothing, and it's deafening. Because your silence isn't just absence, it's presence without permission. It's the decision to stop feeding the emotional loop. The quiet refusal to keep performing in a story she had already walked out of. She expected tension, a fight, a question, even a breakdown. But what she got was space. Not the kind that invites her back, but the kind that forces her to sit with her own choices. This is the paradox: when you go quiet, your value gets louder. In Stoicism, silence is not passivity, it's power. Marcus Aurelius taught, the more we value things outside our control, the less control we have. Your silence is a boundary. It's a withdrawal of energy from what no longer serves you. It's not about proving a point, but protecting your peace. You don't need her to understand. You don't need her to apologize. You needed clarity. And now that you have it, there's no more need for noise. So what does this look like? You don't respond to passive aggression. You don't watch her stories to signal presence. You don't explain why you're done. You simply are. She scrolls, waits, and wonders. Why hasn't he said anything? Why hasn't he reacted? Is he really over it? And in that wondering, something dangerous happens for her. You become unknown again. Not because you've changed into someone else, but because you've returned to the version of you. She never truly had access to the man who doesn't explain his worth. The man who doesn't react to being misunderstood. The man who lets absence become his message. Psychologically, this disrupts everything. She can't pin you down anymore. Can't read your tone. Can't predict your next move. And in that lack of control, her confidence begins to erode. Not because you tried to make her feel it, but because you stopped needing her to. This silence isn't revenge. It's rebirth. You didn't go quiet to punish. You went quiet because you finally outgrown the need to be heard by someone who never truly listened. If you've ever let your silence speak louder than your pain, say it now. I didn't go silent to be noticed. I went silent to be free. Number 7. The self-respect that no one can negotiate. She expected you to wait, to linger in the background like a forgotten song, playing softly in case she ever decided to press rewind. She thought you'd stay emotionally available just in case. But this time, you didn't. You didn't wait. You didn't beg. You didn't crumble under the weight of being overlooked, because you finally realized your worth is not up for negotiation. And that realization changed everything. You see, most people treat self-respect like an accessory, something they wear until the right person walks away and then toss it aside in exchange for validation. But the Stoic man knows better. He doesn't trade dignity for a second chance. As Epictetus said, know first who you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly. You've stopped trying to earn back a place in a story that no longer deserves your presence. And that act alone makes you unforgettable, not because you withheld love, but because you refused to give it to someone who couldn't hold it. So how does this self-respect show up in real life? You don't reread old messages, you don't analyze silence. You stop trying to be understood by someone who never asked the right questions in the first place. Instead, you place all your energy into becoming someone who doesn't need to be recognized to feel valuable. That doesn't mean you're unfeeling. It means you finally stopped outsourcing your identity. You no longer hand over your worth like a flower, hoping someone will water it. You've become the sun, the soil, and the root. Psychologically, this changes how others see you, even if they can't explain it. You stop chasing closure. You stop reacting to breadcrumbs. You no longer look like someone waiting. You look like someone becoming. And that shift is intimidating to those who once took you lightly. Because now, she's not wondering whether you still care. She's wondering how you moved on so silently, so fully, so decisively. And when she looks back, she won't see desperation. She'll see a man who held his ground when the world expected him to fall apart. This is the truth. Most never learn. Self-respect doesn't scream. It just never returns to what disrespected it. If you've ever chosen dignity over attention, speak it now. I stopped proving my value because I never needed permission to have it. Number 8, the life you're building that she no longer belongs to. At one point, she was the center of your thoughts. Every plan, every conversation, every moment was quietly shaped around her presence. You imagined a future with her in it. Even after she left, part of you hoped she might return and fit into that vision. But something shifted. Now you're building a life so full-focused and far beyond where she left you that there's no longer space for her shadow, not out of spite. But the man you're becoming simply doesn't need her to feel complete. This is the Stoic pivot, from seeking reconciliation to seeking evolution. As Marcus Aurelius said, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one. And so you've stopped explaining your worth to those who undervalued it. You've turned your pain into productivity, your memories into momentum. You're no longer rebuilding your old life, but constructing a new one entirely. And this new life, it doesn't wait for her to notice. It doesn't rely on her applause. It's forged in quiet mornings, heavy reps, long hours, and disciplined routines. You're connecting with people who see your growth, not your grief. You're becoming the man who once dreamed but now does. So what does this mean practically? You no longer post to be seen. You don't leave the door open. You don't hope for her to see what she lost. You focus on your mission and let your life become the proof she used to be the story. Now she's a footnote. Not because you hate her, but because you've outgrown the chapter where she mattered most. Psychologically, this is power. The moment you stop needing someone to see your worth is when they might finally, but by then, you won't be available. Not out of ego, but you've crossed into a future where her name no longer echoes. She'll look back and realize she didn't just lose you. She lost access to a world she no longer fits into. If you've ever built a life so powerful that your past can't follow, speak it now. I didn't replace her. I outgrew the space she left behind. Number 9. The revenge she'll never see. Coming your evolution. She may have expected a performance that you'd try to win her back, flaunt your success, show her what she lost. Maybe she imagined herself being impressed, even envious, but that kind of revenge still centers her, and you're no longer building a life to impress someone who chose to leave it. You're not seeking revenge, you're seeking replacement. Not of her, but of the man you used to be. The weak version. The one who tolerated mixed signals, who waited for closure, who questioned his worth when someone else withdrew their affection. That version died when you stopped chasing, and in his place, you've created something she never anticipated. A man who no longer needs to be seen by her to exist with power. This is the Stoic shift, from resentment to rebirth, as Epictetus taught. First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. So you did. You replaced pain with purpose. You turned heartbreak into fuel. And in doing so, you stopped needing her to regret losing you because you no longer recognize the man who needed her approval to feel whole. And here's the part that cuts deeper than revenge ever could. You didn't just move on, you transformed into someone she couldn't reach, even if she tried. So what does that look like? You no longer tell your story from the lens of what she did. You tell it through what you became. You no longer let her absence define your narrative. Your new circle, your new habits, your new values, they don't accommodate the past version of her anymore. She wouldn't survive in the altitude you've climbed to. Psychologically, this is devastating for the one left behind. Because people expect distance, but they don't expect to become irrelevant. They expect time to soften the pain, not to erase the place they once held. But when you replace desperation with discipline, you remove the hook. There's nothing left for her to control. That's real power. Not look at me now, but you're no longer a part of the story I'm telling. If you've ever outgrown someone so fully that no apology could reach you, write this now. I didn't win her back. I outgrew the man who wanted her. Number 10. The day you realized you were always enough. She left, and in that absence, something broke. Not just the connection, but your belief in yourself. You asked the questions we all do. Was I not enough? Was I too much? What did I do wrong? The silence became a mirror, and you saw your insecurities staring back in it. But now, that mirror reflects something else. Truth. The truth is, you were always enough. Her leaving didn't prove your inadequacy, it revealed her inability to recognize what she had, and that's no longer your burden to carry. You don't need closure from someone who couldn't even face their own emotional reality. You don't need validation from someone who only valued you when you were easy to control. The man you are now doesn't beg to be seen, he sees himself. This is the final Stoic lesson. Value is internal. Lovers, applause, or circumstances do not assign it. As Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. And when your thoughts shift from blame to clarity, everything changes, because you no longer need her to come back to feel whole. You no longer need to win to feel worthy. You've stopped asking why she left and started embracing why you're better off because she did. So what does this look like in your life? You no longer rehearse old conversations in your head. You stop proving yourself through revenge success. You stop chasing moments that might make her rethink, because now your evolution isn't about being watched, It's about being true to your growth, to your peace, to your future. Psychologically, this is your liberation. You no longer live in reaction. You've stopped defining your identity through loss. You've become a man rooted in self-knowledge. And from that place, everything that once had power over you disappears. She may look back. She may reach out, but by then, it won't matter. Not because you don't feel, but because you finally know. Your worth isn't proven in relationships, it's remembered in solitude. That's when you stop asking to be chosen and start choosing yourself. If you've ever realized you were always enough, say it now: she didn't complete me, and that's why I finally became whole. She thought you'd stay broken, circling the same memories, drowning in the same questions, but now you've outgrown the version of you she expected to haunt. And without noise, without spite, you walked forward and never turned around. That makes you unforgettable. Not because you disappeared, but because you didn't need to return. You healed quietly. You outgrew the narrative. And in doing so, you reclaimed something. No one could take your direction. You're not the man who needs to be chosen. You're the man who chooses himself. If this is the path you've stepped into, like this video, subscribe, and comment. My growth doesn't need permission. Move with purpose. Let your absence be peace, not punishment. And keep walking. Your future was never behind you.